Have you ever heard of a war where the battle cry was, "Kill them all, God will know his own"? A war fought not against a foreign invader, but within Christian Europe itself. This is the story of the Albigensian Crusade, a 20-year conflict that was part religious purge, part political conquest, and one of the most brutal chapters in medieval history. Imagine 13th century southern France, a region called Languedoc. It was a vibrant, tolerant place, a patchwork of independent lords and cities, with its own language, Occitan, and a unique culture. But this tolerance allowed a new faith to take root, Catharism. And Catharism wasn't just a different flavor of Christianity. It was a direct challenge to the very foundations of the Catholic Church and the feudal world. The Cathars believed in two gods, a good God of the Spirit and an evil God who created the physical world. For them, the material world, including the human body, was a prison for the soul. Jesus wasn't God in the flesh, but an angel, making sacraments like the Eucharist meaningless. They rejected the entire church hierarchy, refused to take oaths of loyalty, and believed procreation was a sin. In the eyes of the Pope, this wasn't just heresy. It was a societal cancer that threatened to unravel everything. Pope Innocent III tried everything to stop it. He sent preachers, but they were ignored. He excommunicated the most powerful lord in the region, Count Raymond VI of Toulouse, for protecting the heretics. Nothing worked. The final straw came in January 1208. The Pope's personal representative, a man named Pierre de Castelnau, was assassinated after a tense meeting with Count Raymond. Outraged, Pope Innocent III seized his moment. He declared a crusade, but with a brilliant, cynical twist. He offered the lands and titles of the heretics in Languedoc as spoils of war to any northern French nobleman willing to fight. This masterstroke fused religious zeal with raw greed. It wasn't just a holy war anymore, it was a land grab. A massive army of ambitious knights and barons gathered at Lyon, ready to march south and unleash hell. The war began in 1209 with an act of shocking brutality that would define the entire conflict. The Crusader army arrived at the city of Béziers. When the city fell, the soldiers asked the papal legate, Arnaud Amalric, how to tell the Cathars from the Catholics. His alleged reply became infamous: "Kill them all. God will know his own." An indiscriminate slaughter followed. While the reported figure of 20,000 dead is likely an exaggeration, the message was clear. No mercy would be shown. The terror worked. The great fortress of Carcassonne surrendered soon after. A ruthless and ambitious northern baron, Simon de Montfort, took command of the crusade and was granted the conquered lands. For years he waged a campaign of sieges and systematic terror, burning Cathar believers at the stake by the hundreds. The climax of this first phase came in 1213 at the Battle of Muret. The King of Aragon, who had come to defend the southern lords, was killed in battle. His death shattered the southern resistance, and Simon de Montfort was declared the new Count of Toulouse. It seemed the crusade had won, but the tide was about to turn. In 1216, Pope Innocent III died, followed 2 years later by Simon de Montfort himself, killed by a stone projectile during the siege of Toulouse. This power vacuum gave the southern lords, led by the deposed Count Raymond and his son, a chance to fight back. They rallied their forces, retook Toulouse, and began pushing the Crusaders out. For a brief moment, it looked like Languedoc might win back its independence. But the dream was short-lived. By 1226, the French King Louis VIII decided to intervene directly. This was no longer a baron's crusade. It was now a royal conquest. A massive French army marched south, overwhelming the exhausted southern defenses. The royal strategy was simple and brutal: systematic devastation. They burned fields, destroyed vineyards, and starved the city of Toulouse into submission. Defeated and alone, Raymond VII was forced to sign the Treaty of Paris in 1229. The terms were crushing. He had to hunt down heretics in his own lands, and his only daughter and heir, Joan, was forced to marry the French king's brother. The treaty included a devastating clause. If the couple died without an heir, all of Languedoc would pass directly to the French crown. And that's exactly what happened. When Joan and her husband died childless in 1271, the once proud and independent county of Toulouse was absorbed into the Kingdom of France. The military war was over, but the persecution was not. The Pope established a new, terrifying institution to finish the job, the medieval Inquisition. Dominicans and friars became expert investigators, using a system of penance, imprisonment, and public execution to systematically uproot the last vestiges of the Cathar faith. The final, dramatic act was the siege of the mountain fortress of Montségur, where over 200 Cathar leaders were captured and burned on a single, massive pyre. The Albigensian Crusade was a complete success, but at a terrible cost. The Cathar faith was wiped from the face of the earth. The unique, tolerant culture of Languedoc, with its troubadours and its own language, was suppressed and faded into history, replaced by the culture of the northern conquerors. And a powerful, independent region was brought under the heel of the French king, a critical step in creating the modern nation of France. Today, historians still debate whether this campaign was an act of genocide, but what is certain is that the Albigensian Crusade stands as a chilling monument to how religious fervor and political ambition can combine to extinguish not just a belief system, but an entire way of life. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this dive into medieval history fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories from the past. We'll see you in the next one.